On January 7th, 2021, the Great Lakes community lost a man many people loved. His name was Frank Mays, and if you ever met him, his stories touched you. He survived a shipwreck that killed 33 of his shipmates and then was left to keep their memory alive, and he did that. Corey Adkins shows you a small portion of his story on this week's Northern Michigan in Focus.
What happened, the ship was old and ripe and the keel just broke. She just couldn't take the twisting and turning anymore.
It was a horrible and tragic moment nobody wanted to happen. The night of November 18th, 1958, 35 men on the Carl D. Bradley were caught in a storm on Lake Michigan and were about to make history. Frank Mays was one of them.
I remember each and every detail. What was going through my mind was survival. I wasn't making a decision. I think the decisions were made for me. I just moved.
In this interview done in 2004, Frank remembers seeing the Bradley starting to split into two. That's when he started to run down the deck and then ended up in the cold, dark lake.
I was washed off in a wave, a huge wave come up as we were going down, and we started listening to the port side. The ship is going down in a position like this, up and down and keep going, and one come up on the starboard side, and we were listed and just took everybody with them.
Luckily, he found a raft and helped 3 other guys on it as they watched the Bradley sink. The men were Gary Streletsky, Dennis Meredith, and Elmer Fleming. The Bradley sank around 5:30 p.m. After she went under, there was no more light, and a long night ahead for the 4 men.
Yeah, you were out there at the mercy of the sea then. Just 4 people on the raft. We had no way to propel our raft. We had sails, nothing. We were at the mercy of the sea. We went where the sea and the wind took us.
Sadly, the lake claimed 2 of the men on the raft that night.
That's what I said. If we make it till daylight, we will be found. However, during the night, we lost 2 people. We lost Dennis Meredith and Gary Streletsky. And Elmer and I, we made it to daylight.
33 men died that night, many of them from Rogers City. Only Elmer and Frank survived. Elmer Fleming passed in 1969. Since then, Frank Mays became a world traveler, visiting over 80 countries. But the story of the Bradley was always top on his mind. He wrote 2 books about that horrible night, telling people what he went through. And just about every summer, you could see Frank at museums around the Great Lakes, talking to people about his story and his lost shipmates, who should never be forgotten.
The Carl D. Bradley became the ship time forgot. The Fitzgerald took all of the thunder, which to me, although the Fitzgerald lost 29 people, we lost 33. But everything at the Bradley was just pushed aside, and that's not to be.
Frank Mays passed away on January 7th, 2021. He was 89 years old. And I think this quote says it the best. Never say goodbye, because goodbye means going away, and going away means forgetting. We will never forget the 35 crewmen of the Carl D. Bradley. For Northern Michigan in Focus, I'm Corey Adkins.